Hey everyone, it's Alex, and welcome to the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week. As always, we're talking about the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap. We're using untapped-based statistics since the most recent patch, collection level 6,000 and above, only using infinite-based statistics in order to get rid of ourselves of those bot games that tend to inflate the stats. Today we're getting started with a bonus deck, which is the 11th deck, and this is essentially a deck that is the highest performing Thunderbolt Ross deck that also features Sam Wilson Captain America. So if you're looking to just bang out the weekend mission as fast as possible, while also putting up as much power as you can, which is also the other weekend mission, this is the perfect deck for you. It's running approximately 55% win rate right now, post-infinite, which is pretty good. I should have just written the stats there, but whatever. There are better performing decks individually because Thunderbolt Ross has somewhat underperformed. But overall, this is a good approach if you're looking to get that weekend mission done. And so here it is. Pound away at that weekend mission. As we move on to the statistical top 10. Getting into our top 10, we have Thunderbolt Hela starting us off. At a 53% win rate and a 0.30 cube rate, the cube rate is what we would consider good, and the win rate's on the lower end, but that's kind of what you expect from Hela. Thunderbolt Ross, this is probably one of the better places for him, outside of Searcher, of course, but there's better performing Searcher shells. But anyways, with Hela, it was interesting because you are pulling some chunks, and that's good because you want to discard them in order to kind of set up that Hela synergy. And what's also interesting is that although Thaddeus cannot draw Hela, because obviously she's not above 10 power, what it does is it thins the deck, allowing you to top deck Hela more effectively, which is honestly appreciated, considering you're often, top decking like a Black Cat that then gets discarded itself, or Arrow, or of course the Infinite, which you can hit with a variety of different cards here. Overall, it's a good shell. It's as reliable as this this new version of Hela is going to get. Hellcow feels great in this deck in my testing, naturally because of Hellcow's ability to kind of be activated in line with the Hela play, which is very useful. But overall, pretty good deck if you're looking to play some Hela discard, and Thunderbolt actually legitimately does make a difference here, so it's kind of cool to see. Going into number 9 is a deck that its stats has somewhat slipped a little bit at a 54% win rate and a 0.25 cube rate. 2.5 is a little on the low end. I try not to feature any decks under 30 cube rate. But at the end of the day, I think this is a very popular shell right now, and I think a lot of people are playing it, and that's cool. It's the mill deck, and now the current best version of this list is running Fenris. Some versions do cut the Fenris. I think it's probably because a lot of people just don't have them, so they're looking for alternatives. But statistically, Fenris does great here, and it's no surprise why. You're milling cards, you're destroying them with Gladiator, etc. Lady Deathstrike, actually a pretty good card right now, and one of the reasons why Lady Deathstrike's pretty solid is because it tends to deal with the Doom 2099s and Doom bots pretty effectively before they get out of hand, which is kind of appreciated. But you also have Misery, which can also mill the deck completely, and you can't play Doom 2099 if it doesn't exist in your deck. So honestly, a pretty cool deck. You're probably sick of seeing mill, and there might be some additional synergies coming down the line with some new cards coming out that are going to activate mill further. But it's kind of crazy because Zemo is legit seeing play all of a sudden. It is a very legitimate card, and so mill coming in at number 9. Although the stats have somewhat dipped in the last week or two. And coming in at number 8, you got your boys Bullseye deck, and I'm so glad to see that the Frigga version of Bullseye has consistently been one of the absolute top performers. 56% win rate and a 0.30 cube rate. Again, it's right on that threshold of what is a good deck in Marvel Snap. 56 is pretty solid. The deck still performs well. I think that people that continue to play it have really figured out the lines and become more comfortable with it. The only thing that's kind of messing this deck up right now is that you're seeing a little bit of experimentation with a couple decks using Mobius and Mobius. And so Mobius and Mobius will make the swarms not cost 0. And so therefore Bullseye can't hit them. And that's somewhat problematic for this shell. But overall, still a very good performing deck. And for me, what makes me happy about it is still seeing Meek making the final versions. Obviously, Frigga is kind of like the spicy sauce, but I've always thought Meek was so great in this deck, and people were cutting him so early on. I'm like, no, Meek is a carry here, and it's just nice to see Meek getting some stuff done there. As we move on to number 7, and it is Arishem 2099. Now, obviously, Doom 2099 did get nerfed in the most recent patch, but would it surprise you to know that the card is still good? It's running a 56% win rate and a 0.39 cube rate, and this is an example of the Mobius and Mobius that's finding itself into a number of decks. It's just it's just a good list. Like when you have Erisham and you're able to kind of sneak out that Doom 2099 a turn early, like it's just a massive advantage. It's funny that this deck actually runs the Enchantress, which, obviously if, it could be a little bit of a gamble if you Enchantress your own Doom bots and stuff like that. But it's a pretty interesting list nonetheless. I do like the Galacta. You have a lot of very high impact foreplays when it comes down to that turn 3 and what you have with Erisham. And of course you have the Alliath, which can be played on turn 5 or 6 as a power play. It's just a good list. It's just a very, very good list. And one of the things I really like about it in play is that you have the Iron Patriot, and then you're able to follow up with a 4-costed card on top of that Iron Patriot. So you are able to reach a little more effectively than your opponent while also getting a high value card. So yeah, Erisham 2099, still a very good deck in the current meta. And we go to number 6, and this is currently the best performing Adam Warlock version. Now there's a couple different Adam Warlock decks that are kind of seeing some play, and you got the Agent Venom list and stuff like that. I actually like those lists a lot, the Havoc Venom list, but they're not performing as well as this one here. This was running a 56% win rate and a 0.41 cube rate. Cube rate is astronomical, and it's a pretty interesting list. And it's funny because for me, I look at this and I'm like, man, I would love to see something like Athena in this deck, but it's. You got Kitty Pryde. How do you separate Kitty Pryde and Athena? But this deck does exactly that. What I like about it is when I was testing it was you play Adam Warlock and then you follow that up with Rocket and Groot, and they just feed that Rocket and Groot. And what's nice about Rocket and Groot is that it's that 2-point differential that happens when you play there, right? So not only is Adam Warlock baiting the play, but if they do play there, Rocket and Groot, they get that energy, and they also reduce the energy on the other side, allowing you to perhaps draw more effectively. And the fact that you're hoping to draw more often allows you to play these lesser expensive cards. As you see, the top end is Enchantress, Galacta, Gwenpool, and of course Shangers. It's just a good deck, and in my play experience with it, it was the Juggernaut that often was a pretty cool way to seal the deal on turn 6 when people were not expecting Juggernaut to be the follow-up. And of course, you can follow up Adam Warlock with Juggernaut itself, and you can also follow up Iron Patriot with Juggernaut. You can follow up a lot of things with Juggernaut, and I think that's pretty neat. Juggernaut pulling a lot of weight in this particular deck, so I do like it. If you're looking to play some new Adam Warlock, this is currently the one to play. And we go to number 5, and it is Toxic Evo. I've been talking a lot about how I think Evo might be making a bit of a comeback, specifically on the Toxic side. Now, this is not a shell that I actually was not working on an Ajax-based shell, so when I saw this, I was like, damn, this is a nice cook. I was working on some Scorpion-based stuff, because I do want to do like a Moon Girl double-up Abomination deck, so I'm mean, keep an eye out for that eventually. But this is a pretty neat list. Like, I do like it a lot. It's cool that you can use the Rocket and Groot in order to kind of activate the Miles Morales, get some additional value out there. And then when you consider that Miles Morales is a 1, Ajax is a 5, and then you may be able to sneak them out on turn 6 together. Abomination may be free. The only thing missing here, and it's a sad thing that like you can't really play Malekith with a Scorpion because it's really awkward from that standpoint. Malekith tends to work so effectively with the like Ajax, Hazmat, Toxic decks, but there's just not enough room with it with High Evo taking up the space that it does. But overall, it's an interesting take on High Evo. We've not seen an Evo shell over 30 cube rate and 57% win rate in a while, so it's pretty cool to see Evo at the very least starting to make a comeback here, and you just have good tech here too. I mean, you got Red Guardian, Man-Thing's pretty solid in the current meta too, so yeah, really interesting list nonetheless. And then we go to number 4, and that's going to be Sandman Scream. We actually have 2 Scream decks we need to talk about today, and the top end of the meta is kind of binary, like there's well, we'll get there, but basically you have Sandman Scream, which is the very high performing version of Scream. I actually think this is pretty cool. It also runs the Doom 2099, which is funny because in the patch notes where they discussed Doom 2099, they said like, hey, literally one of the top performing shells of Doom 2099 was in a Scream deck, and here you are, an extremely high performing Scream deck at a 58% win rate, a 0.39 cube rate. It's just a good list. It's just a good list. And when you factor in that you're able to play something like a Sandman on turn 5, activate that the Doom 2099, and then have the option of either going wider with Doom, Dr. Doom, or doing the Magneto into the Screenplay or Craven or whatever. It's pretty fascinating what you're able to do. I also, in testing this deck, I found it very interesting that Sam Wilson was pretty cool at like potentially blocking off locations to force the Doom boss to like kind of so you can manipulate like with the shield where the Doom bots might fall. I found that particularly valuable, but also like the deck's just good. It's just good cards doing good things, and the new change to Spider-Man actually felt pretty solid too. So overall, number 4 with excellent statistics. Coming in at number 3, we have Zoo 2099. Now I really like this deck. I think it's very creative in the way that it approaches ongoing deck building, because you're going to notice right off the top here, you have Psylocke, you have Rocket and Groot, and you have Iron Lad, all of which are not ongoing. I mean, Iron Lad potentially could be, but you still have Spectrum as one of the finishers, which I find as a very interesting choice. I like this deck because it does feature the ability to ramp out the Doom 2099 early with the Psylocke, and that makes her worth it. Again, you're seeing the Mobius and Mobius making a couple decks here and there, which is pretty fascinating in and of itself. What I really like about this list is the fact that you have a very high-performing deck that utilizes both caps. You have Sam Wilson and you have Captain America. You can move that shield between the two while also generating a lot of value with your other cards. So overall, like, it feels like this deck has a number of different options. And when I was playing it, I found myself enjoying the fact that I had the Spectrum Closer, which felt powerful. Despite the fact you have several non-ongoing pieces here, it felt powerful because of the fact you had Cap, and the shield. And that was a lot of additional power. And when you consider that every additional hit is just +2 on top of Spectrum's 7 inherent power, like, she does put up quite a bit. I did appreciate Rocket and Groot, although in my opinion, Rocket and Groot kind of felt like a card you could potentially cut for another ongoing if like you don't have them, for instance, because the additional reach provided by Doctor Doom was pretty valuable under most circumstances. But overall, the deck performed wonderfully. The stats don't lie. It's a damn good list. So if you're looking to play something a little unique, especially a unique take on Zoo, you could try this here. I mean, it's not quite Zoo, but it's like a Doom 2099 Zoo, right? So I do like the deck a lot. Going into number 2, we do have Scream Surtur. Now, it's very interesting to see here that we have a Heimdall version of Surtur performing as well as it is, a 60% win rate, although the cube rate is a little on the lower end at 0.28. Again, we like that 0.30 as a general, like, good deck kind of metric there, but I gotta tell you, when I saw this deck and it performing at a 60% win rate with a pretty interesting design, got me interested, especially with something like Red Wing coming out, right? Red Wing could immediately like a deck like this because you have the Magneto, obviously you have the Arrow, you have big chunks in there, you have Call Obsidian that wouldn't mind getting pulled by a Heimdall on turn 6 with the play, right? So I do think that this deck is probably a really good shell to look at playing come the Red Wing week, which is, well, next week, I guess. So keep an eye on this one. I just want to showcase it to you up front because I think that this is going to be a really nice natural shell for Red Wing if you're looking to make some magic happen potentially. Who knows? But again, it's a Scream shell and it's doing damn well with Surtur. And that takes us to the number 1 deck of the week. And I kind of sound like a broken record, but it's going to be Surtur. And it's going to be a Sam Wilson version of Surtur. And what's interesting about it, you have the Iron Patriot, you got Sam Wilson, you got a lot of stuff happening here, and Surtur continues to be absolutely phenomenal. And what I said prior with Sam Wilson and Call Obsidian, that shield makes Call Obsidian just an absolute free play. You can move the shield wherever you want, play the Call Obsidian in, or you can just play it wherever the shield is, even if you don't draw it into Sam Wilson. So a lot of added opportunity there to make some magic happen. Iron Patriot feels good here. Obviously, the tech of Armor and Cosmo's great. Now, obviously, Armor is a little more niche in its tech because Destroy's not all that popular right now. But Cosmo, I have found myself, because this deck is pretty solid at getting initiative, I have found myself, like, smoking guys with Cosmo. Because remember, you have the shield in play, which is earning initiative on turn 1 guaranteed, and it's something in play, right? And so if you play on a different location on turn 1 or 2, like, you're probably competing for initiative, and then you have that Cosmo as a surprise play. So honestly, the deck is remarkable. Forget the nerf to Surtur. It doesn't really matter. The deck is still absolutely clapping. 60% win rate, 0.47 cube rate. This is post OTA. Like, this is not prior to the OTA. This is post OTA. This deck is crushing. So if you want to continue playing some Surtur, go right on ahead. Continue winning games. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you haven't either. And we'll see you in that next one.